Duke fans, welcome back. Another edition Talking Ball. We're going through the updated roster for Duke basketball heading into next season. Look, it was a really awesome season with a terrible ending for Duke last year, led by Cooper Flagg and company. And now they've reloaded. They look to have a really talented roster heading into next season. So last year's Duke team, they lost their entire starting five heading into 2025-26 season. Let's go through the names. Cooper Flagg, Kon Knueppel, Kamon Malowach, Tyrese Proctor, Sion James. They're all gone. They also lost Mason Gillis from last year, who played an important role for them as a leader, a reliable shooter off the bench, especially as the season went on. And not only that, but they also lost just veteran stability, which they had kind of relied on these past few years with the transition from Coach K to John Shire and Spencer Hubbard, Neil Begovic, and Stanley Borden. Borden and Hubbard being the last two guys who were under Coach K. So let's look at the 2025-26 roster for Duke heading into this season. So we're going to go through this in height order for the Blue Devils, picking out the new players and the returners. So right off the bat, we've got one of the new players, one of the Boozer twins, Caden Boozer, he's in competition with the guy to his right, Caleb Foster, to be the starting point guard for this year's Duke team. I think a lot of people think it's going to end up being Caden Boozer, but from the early scrimmage looks that we've been able to see, it seems like Foster is the one who's getting the looks with the first team. And I could see Foster having a breakthrough junior season. Boozer, I do think, can give them the stability at the point guard position they haven't had in a few years, similar to what they got from the Jones brothers, just steady point guard play. Darren Harris is a winner coming from Paul VI. Didn't play very much last year. As a freshman, he was the 11th guy really on that roster, which was a loaded roster. Not a slight on Darren Harris at all. I expect him to be this year's Isaiah Evans as a spark plug scorer off the bench with more playing time than Evans got last year. At least that's what I think as of now, but a lot of this is going to change. Speaking of Isaiah Evans, he's back. I expect him to start. I think he could be the second or third leading scorer on this year's Duke team. I expect him to expand his game a bit more this season. He was a guy who pretty much only shot threes last year. I expect to see a few more twos. They did mix in more as the year went on, though, for Evans. And then Cameron Sheffield and Jack Scott. Sheffield back from last year's team. Scott, a new addition, coming over from, I believe, Princeton, if I remember correctly. And those two guys, Sheffield was in this role last year, but Scott taking over that Neil Begovic style role, that Spencer Hubbard role, important practice player for the Blue Devils. Next up, we've got three freshmen, very different. It's very different. All coming in. It's funny because they're all 6'8", but just very different backgrounds, skill sets, etc. So Sebastian Wilkins, 6'8", forward. I know they list him as a guard, but I see him as a forward. 220. Is a guy who I think will play more as a 4 than as a 3 for Duke. But reclassified, has shown some promise. They keep featuring him in the Duke social media. I wonder if he's going to play more than what I thought. Dame Sarr looks like a projected starter for this Duke team as a 6'8" wing coming in from Barcelona. And then Nick Hamenia, 6'8" forward, can do a bit of everything, can shoot, can pass, can defend. He's going to be in competition for, I think, a high-level role off the bench is my prediction for Hamenia, but was a guy who had committed to Duke relatively early on, top 25-ish recruit, maybe top 20 actually, for Hamenia. Now, last four players for the Blue Devils. We've got Malik Brown coming back from last year's team. One of the best defenders in college basketball. And if Malik Brown can become a more reliable three-point shooter. I think reliable may be the wrong word. More willing three-point shooter because the form looks good. I think if he can shoot them more frequently, the confidence will come for Brown. That will just give this Duke team another gear to combine with his defense. Cameron Boozer is going to be the star of this year's team. Him and his brother are they've got two of the best pedigrees of any high school player in high school history, quite frankly, with what they're able to do at Columbus. And I expect Cameron Boozer to be an immediate high-level contributor for the Blue Devils. Ifeanyi Ufuchukwu, I expect to be a practice player for Duke. And finally, Patrick Gangba. Listen, he's not the rim protector that Malawach was for the Blue Devils last year, but he can protect the rim. But what Gangba is a tremendous offensive talent with great footwork and hands and just skill level, high skill level for Gangba. He was hurt, his senior year of high school. Then he got off to a slow start due to another injury at Duke. Unfortunately, we did see him in a boot this summer. So I think health is key for Gangba. But if he can stay healthy, I think he can have a very good sophomore season for the Blue Devils. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until next time, peace.